So, welcome to week 3 and 4 of the amazing Readathon. Hello, everybody. My name is Jessica. I am ThisKiwi. Today, we're going to go through weeks 3 and 4 of the amazing Readathon, or TAR. And I don't know, I feel like maybe these weeks actually went better than the first 2 weeks. So let's go ahead with leg 6, which was Antenna Navarro, and that was a book that involved gods or religion or something along that lines. And I thought this was going to be really challenging, um, trying to get like a historical fiction or something along those lines. But for this one, I chose The Song of Achilles. And while this is kind of a genre blend, um, it is like fantasy, but it is also a historical fiction according to Goodreads as well. And so I managed to stay on genre with that one. Considering how much hype this book has had over the years, I was very disappointed. And this is a bad book to start when I said that this last 2 weeks went better, but I will get to the good ones. This one though, to me, there was just too much boring lead up to the war, and by the time the war kind of came around, I just didn't care. The war wasn't even mentioned until about halfway through, and it was just like the way it was mentioned, there was no like drama, there was no tension around it. It was like, do you want to join this war? You kind of have to join this war. Great, let's go. Um, it was just kind of like that, and it was just like, okay, whatever. Um, there was the training with Chiron, which I found mostly unnecessary, and the whole side plot about Achilles getting married on some island way out in the middle of nowhere to some princess, was just totally unnecessary. Was just a waste of time. Kind of by that sake, I was reading for the sake of just finishing it. Um, I thought the romance was written really awkwardly, and it was just really uncomfortable to read. And Patroclus, I think he just needed to grow up here and stop being a whiny little puppy, um, because to me, that's all he was. Uh, this got a 3 star. I'm really disappointed that I had to give it that rating. For Soul, we had Source of Light on the cover for our prompt, and I chose the Wartime Book Club by Kate Thompson. It has a window on the cover, which is definitely a source of light. I thought the idea of the book was really interesting. I think it could have done some great things, but the execution just wasn't there. There was a cute little romance thing happening between Grace the librarian and an American officer or soldier that was on the run. But apart from that, a whole lot of the characters weren't really memorable, maybe apart from Wolf, who was kind of the antagonist. He was actually quite fun to read. The premise of the book is essentially about a librarian who starts a book club in occupied, I can't remember the name of the island, I'll pop it up on screen. But while they're under German occupation, she starts this book club, and obviously the books that they read all have to be approved. But on the side, she's been delivering these books that are not approved and these books that are illegal to people on the island that want to read them. On the other hand, she has a friend B who's like the local post lady, and she intercepts letters from narcs, essentially, who basically are telling these German officers about people on the island who they think have illegal stuff or are hiding people. So she intercepts these letters and she brings them to Grace and is like, can you tell these families, while you're there delivering books, that they need to clean up the place before they get raided? I think it was okay. It was nothing mind blowing. Um, like I said, the idea of delivering banned books and also warning against raids was a good idea. I just don't think the execution was there. And so for that reason, I gave it a 3.5. So for leg 8, we went to Bangkok, and that was to read a book with 5 colours on the cover. For this one, I chose Loveless by Alice Oseman. And I needed to read this for Pokemon anyway, for the Pride Pokemon. And I had a really good time with this. I didn't expect to, but I thought it was funny. I thought it was well written. I thought it was easy to read. It explored some pretty uh, complex themes and situations and topics around sexuality and friendship and just about what love really means. This follows Georgia, who by the end of high school has not had a crush on anyone, has not loved anyone, has not kissed anyone, done any of that. Um, and so she decides to kind of get the whole kiss thing out of the way at this party. But she becomes really uncomfortable and she says no. So fast forward to college, still hasn't had a boyfriend, still hasn't kissed anyone, yada yada yada. But she's determined to find a boyfriend in college, and she also makes these really cool friends. When she does find a boyfriend, they do agree to take things very slow. She doesn't say straight out like her feelings about anything, doing anything sexual or anything like that. And then on the other hand, she's got her group of friends and they're trying to save this drama club, and decide to do Shakespeare. And so they're rehearsing and stuff like that. Eventually she finds out who she is and who and how she loves best. I rated this 4 stars. It was definitely better than I thought. For leg 9, Haere Mai, welcome to my neck of the woods. We went to Auckland. I felt so giddy having my city, my home city, used for a prompt in this. I decided to read Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. The prompt for this was to have water on the cover, and it definitely lived up to most of the hype that it had. Um, it wasn't really a life-changing book for me, but it was a very, very good book. It was very, very well written. Probably one of the best written books that I've read in a long time. Um, I can see why practically everybody gives it 5 stars. It was so accessible. And you really went on the journey with Sam and Sadie. There were also some amazing side characters as well, um, that kind of really make up a whole team. And I think that's what some books lack. Some of the side characters are there just to be side characters, but these characters, they had a purpose as to why they were there, and like they built on concepts, they built on challenges in the book, and there was just a real purpose as to why they were there. There is a real gut punch in the book that there is no way, if you don't know what the gut punch, there is no way that you can figure it out. And it was a real shock to me. I was shook when that happened. I didn't cry. um but I was definitely shook. I realize I haven't said a lot about what this book is about. And to be honest, I think that's the best way for me to do this. I think you need to go into this book pretty blind. Um, the only thing that I think I can tell you is that Sam and Sadie are gamers. They met when they were kids. They grew apart. They came back together and built a gaming company. Um, I'm struggling with the rating for this one. And by the time of me filming this, it's been almost 2 weeks since I've read this. It's it's somewhere between a 4.5 and a 5. I don't know. It doesn't quite hit that 5 mark for me. I don't get that like absolute excitement to read it again, but it was one of the best written books that I have read this year. I'm I'm leaning towards a 4.5, but I think maybe if I read this under less time pressure, it could go up to a 5 maybe if I was like really absorbing what was going on. So yeah, 4.5-ish. For the last leg of the race, we went to Los Angeles, and that was to read a book that you would like to see adapted into a different form of media, like a TV show or a movie, something like that. Um, and I started reading The Island of Missing Trees by Elif Shafak, I believe is the author of that. But I put it down pretty quickly. So instead, I listened to Ace by Angela Chen, and this is a non-fiction book about what it means to be asexual. And I would love to see this expressed through like a TV series or a documentary or something like that, because there was just so much in this book. And I think there is so much that people can learn from this book. And I think if it was circulated through visual media, maybe it would get out to people a lot more. It was definitely complex and it definitely had a lot of layers. So it explained that ACE is almost like a spectrum where different terms fall under that. There are snippets of interviews with people on the ACE spectrum they were told throughout books. And when I say snippets, I mean like more like really little quotes used from people that she interviewed. I would love to see kind of more of those interviews on screen and what people had to say, kind of with a bit of more explanation or a bit more context about what they were trying to say. Overall, I thought this was very well thought out, very informative, and very thought provoking. And so, for that reason, I gave it a 4.5. So, for my sightseeing books for weeks 3 and 4, um, I read Once Were Warriors by Ellen Duff, and that was also my Kiwi Book of the Month. And it was a very hard book to read, but it was very well worth it. Looks into a family that was surrounded by lots of violence and loss and things like that. And it showed a mother who was determined to kind of claw her way out of it and along the way make her community better as well. The Racial Incident by Carolyn O'Donoghue. This was a very interesting look into a woman's life and how she navigated um, college and loving her professor at one point for a time. The book took a totally different direction than I ever thought it was going to, and that was a really nice surprise. I can see now why there isn't very much of a synopsis. The Queen's Gambit by Walter Travis. Tevis. I loved this book. And it's honestly is fighting for Book of the Month for me, along with the Tattooist of Auschwitz. Um, I just got so invested in Beth and what was going on for her. And at times I was figuratively at the edge of my seat. Um, I felt like the chess was explained really well and it was quite interesting. And as she rose to fame, like the stakes rose higher and higher for her, and I could feel that. And it was really interesting, like right at the very end match. If you've seen Slumdog Millionaire, like right at that very last question, like there's the whole country that's just on the edge of their seats, and like you could hear a pin drop, waiting to see if that final answer was correct. I kind of had that scene in the back of my head while I was reading that final chess match, um, because like again you could just imagine everybody glued to their TV screens or their radios and things just being silent, waiting for the announcement of how things went. And then the professional contrast between the professional contrast of the games compared to the reality of what was going on for Beth, and what she struggled with was really, really well done. I really want to get my hands on a physical copy of this book, like right now, right now. Um, yeah, I loved it. It was definitely a 5 star. So my final sightseeing book was Bridget Jones's Diary, The Edge of Reason, and this was a light, fun book to read, kind of at the end of the craziness of the Amazing Readathon. It was actually just before leg 10 that I managed to finish this. The movie was relatively close to the book, even though it wasn't Renee Zellweger that narrated the audiobook. I could kind of hear her in my head as it was playing. There were several moments where I actually laughed out loud, and that's quite hard to get me to do in a book. The one thing that really put me off was like this whole side bit where she went to interview Colin Firth. Colin Firth. Um, and it, part of that in itself is extremely funny because it's Colin Firth who plays Mark Darcy in the movies. Um, but it just went on for far too long, and I think it was unnecessary. And there was also this random thing about a cowboy builder and also some kind of really bad smell that was like a whole misunderstanding, which got the police involved. And yeah, that was just like a random side bit as well. But apart from that, it was really good. So that was my entire adventure through Tar. I am hoping to do it again next year. Thank you to Bree and to all the mods and to all the hosts, and team leaders for all of your hard work. It's been incredible. Um, did you participate in the Amazing Readathon, or will you participate in the Amazing Readathon next year? Um, and if you did, what was your best book for the whole readathon? That is going to be it from me for the Amazing Readathon. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to give me a like, give me a subscribe, and all of that kind of thing. And I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.